Hello, this is Jonathan. Um, so I must say this is a new experience for me, speaking directly into a camera without anybody actually feeding back to you. It's kind of the opposite of what Phonar is meant to be about. But we'll proceed and see how we get on. So these weekly office hours, I kind of always envisaged them as being the spaces where people could go to that didn't get to go to a class and actually have a teacher. So for those youth, as Phonar is aimed at youth more than adults, for those youth that didn't get to go to it, as I say, somewhere that was running it locally, they could turn up here and make do with me, where they could ask questions, and hopefully I could provide some answers. But being as this is the first week, we didn't expect there would be that many youth, well, hopefully having too many problems just yet, being as they haven't actually started any of the classes. So we've been canvassing for questions all week, and I've got a few here that I was going to ask, but I guess I was going to answer, but I guess it kind of makes sense to just for those people that just sort of drifted along today because they heard about this in the last couple of days, to sort of introduce Phonar Nation and say what it is and who I am, I guess, as well. So my name is Jonathan Worth, and my history is as a photographer, and you know, there are all sorts of different sorts of photographers. We're going to hear from a range of them during the course of the class. I was a portrait photographer, and I was something called an editorial portrait photographer. That means that I used to make photographs for magazines and newspapers generally, but I always had this secret wish that I wanted to be a documentary photographer, one of those super heroic folks that charge off telling dangerous stories in dangerous places. But the reality is, I was not brave enough for that. And people do it that are. They remain my heroes to this day, and I've used this is a great excuse just to get some of those heroes in to talk to us as well. So I was a portrait photographer, and it's the stuff that I still do now. But I taught a class at a university in England, and you know, the class does lots of things. It's a degree, so the students there are there for 3 years. But one of the classes is called Photography and Narrative, and it tries to do something that perhaps a lot of the other classes don't set out to do. It tries to work out what a 21st century photographer is. You know, it's like, so I can call myself a photographer maybe because I've been paid to be a photographer, so I guess that enables me to describe myself as a professional. But when everybody's got access to a device that makes images and the means to share them with everybody else, then surely everybody's a photographer. Perhaps not professional, but everybody's a photographer. So what's the difference between everybody and me then? You know, so the class set about investigating those things, because I certainly didn't have the answers, and we open sourced the class. We asked everybody to chip in and see what they thought. And everybody did. Everybody came along. 35,000 people came along at one point because they thought it was a jolly good question to ask, and they wanted to work out what the answers were too. So the class lived on, you know, and it's carried on at Coventry University in the UK. But Phonar Nation is something different. What we realised was that 35,000 people were coming to the class but couldn't get into the room for one reason or another. Most of them couldn't afford it. It's very expensive to go to university. But lots of people just couldn't physically get there, you know. So we decided to take the class out of the room and to take it where people didn't have to pay for it, for one. So Phonar Nation is completely free, and on the internet as well, so that people could reach out into that network, you know. And then we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if they could all join up on that network as well and find each other? And then that got really exciting because we thought about what we were doing, and we realized really that photography is just about sort of visual literacy, you know. It's like reading and writing, but with pictures. And the internet is very sort of visually led. Loads of pictures on the internet. Now, if you know how to sort of speak clearly with images, with pictures, and if you can read them, because there's a lot of reading goes on in pictures, you know, rather than just absorbing them. If you can read them and understand them, and you can speak with them, then that's very empowering, right? That's as powerful as learning to read and write words. In some respects, it's even more so because it goes across languages. So we thought that was pretty awesome, and that's what Phonar Nation seeks to try and do. And one, it seeks to help people begin to read and write with pictures, visual literacy. And the other thing it seeks to do is to kind of show you where you are in the network, so that you feel empowered by the network rather than anonymized by it, right? Because we're all doing this together, so we all have to show each other where we are. So that's kind of Phonar Nation, and you could find the class at phonarnation.org. So what I'm going to do now is just to see if not because I'm being rude. I'm just seeing if there are any questions from you guys. So it's pretty important that that I do use this phone, actually, because Phonar Nation was designed on a phone. We designed it on a phone, and we made it on a phone, and it's there to be used on a phone as well. It's confusing to do two things at once. There we go. Yes, it's written for a phone. It's for a teacher with a phone, so that she can teach it to her class, and all her students have only got phones. So one of the questions here straight away is, do I need a real camera? And the answer is definitely not. You do need a mobile device that can make images and can share them. So if you navigate to phonarnation.org, you're going to see something similar to that. Hopefully it'll be bigger though when you see it on your phone. If you go to phonarnation.org, then what you'll find there is the class. One of the other questions I have down here is it like a normal school class? Well, no, I hope not. Well, maybe it's like a really, really good school class if you really enjoyed school and that was super awesome. But it's not like a school class in the sense that you kind of have to turn up at 9 o'clock and you have to leave at 7 or whatever it is, or 3. You can kind of drop in and drop out whenever you want. And we've written it especially like that. So if you miss the first session, or maybe if you're just coming to this in week 3 and you're seeing this video for the first time, then dive in. We're waiting for you to jump in. And it doesn't matter that you didn't do the first 2 sessions. You can go back and do those if you want. In fact, you can just jump around and do the classes whenever you like. You can make it up as you go along. You can drop in, drop out. There's no pressure to do everything from start to finish. But if you want to be a part of the network, if that live network experience, remember I talked about being empowered by the network rather than anonymized by it. Well, if you want to hang out when everyone else is doing it at the same times, then sessions are going to take place every week. So this is week 1. We're doing session 1 this week. Session 1 is the pink box. I'm going to tap it now, and it's called Looking for Light. So if you navigate to that class, you can breeze through it. You can see the instructions there. So maybe if you're doing this in a library or a community centre somewhere in America, or maybe if you're doing it with Damien Drohan in Ireland, or if you're doing it with Mark Maguire in New Zealand, you'll be going here, and Damien and Mark, or your instructor at your library, will be perhaps referring to this text. But if you can't get to a class, then read through it yourself. See how you get on. I've made some little movies that we're going to upload as well. And you can always reach out to me if it's not clear, and I'll do my best to get around everyone. I doubt I'll be able to get around everybody if lots of people ask me questions. So I've drafted in some of the people that did the degree course, the Phonar degree course, which is the photography degree course at Coventry. So they're Phonar alumni, and they've agreed to be mentors. So it may be me, or it may be one of the mentors that gets back to you. So at the end of when you've done the class and you get to the bottom, you're going to see there's generally one activity to do each session at least, and then there's a level awesome. So if you've just breezed through it because you are that super awesome, then you go to level awesome, and then there you can find an extra task that kind of takes it up to the next level. You'll have thinking and doing suggestions, your tools, and you may even get some inspiration in there as well if you're lucky. And then the final thing you'll come to is the section called Going Deep. Now, going deep refers to what at school might be referred to as your homework, but really this is a chance to really stretch your legs. So if you've done the class during the day and you found it pretty easy, then these should really take it to the next level, and you can spend the whole week working on these. You can spend the whole week crafting these and submitting them. One of the questions I have here is, will I get accreditation? I think that must have been coming from some degree student, but what he meant was, will I get a badge? And so the answer is yes, you can get a badge. You have to go to pursuitery.com and you have to open up an account, and you follow the instructions there. It's pretty straightforward. You can see on the phonarnation.org site there are some badges there. They're the badges that you'll earn, and it also tells you what you're earning those badges for. Now, as far as badges go, really the work is the badge. So you could breeze through this and get all the badges just to collect badges if you're into badges, and good luck to you. But if you want to sort of have a real strong body of work that's going to be useful at the end of this, maybe you want to apply to go and do a degree course, perhaps, or maybe you want to take it to try and get work, right? Then the badges are less important. The important stuff is that you take this portfolio of awesome. So the work is most important. The badges will tell you what that work represents. So in this first session, the first badge is, it says, my work will explore whether I am aware of different sorts of light. It's called looking for light. And the second thing it evidences is, my work will explore whether I am able to control my device and how it interprets and records the light. So in that first lesson, you will learn how to use your phone, the camera app on your phone, to really take control of a situation visually, so you can really interpret it and dictate the way it looks. One of the questions, I don't think I mentioned it already, I should really be ticking these off, shouldn't I, is will I get to learn how to use my camera better? No, not really. That stuff, there's some brilliant tutorials for that on YouTube, and we can't compete with that. There are people that know how to use this sort of real gear geeks. I love them because that means I don't have to be a gear geek, and I can go to them because they're way better at it than me. I will show you how to use your phone, some tips for using your phone so you can use that a bit better, but generally if you want to know how to use your camera, then there are other places to go, really. Let me just go through these other questions. Is there anything else? There are a couple, yes. So we finished on the lesson. So I'll jump back to the lesson now. The questions in a moment. When you've made your images, you've got to show that. One is, and the other is really so that we can feel out and see where you are. You've got to share those images with the network. So you can post them to Instagram or Flickr, and you'll find a sharing symbol on the phonar.org site, and that's going to tell you what the hashtags are that week. So, for instance, this week's hashtags are #Phonar and #Nation looking for light, where the 4 is the number 4. So it's Phonar and Nation looking for light. And the social stream is Nation looking for light. Blow onto the site and you can see all that stuff streaming. So there are sessions each week. There are homeworks. They're all in the sessions and challenges tab in the menu tab, which is just there. You'll also find in there the home button about a few FAQs. You'll also find the Phonar Nation front page contest. So at the end of 5 weeks, this first iteration of Phonar Nation comes to an end. But the awesome thing about that is that there's another iteration. So if you missed the first session, or if you chose to do one of the homeworks and really wished you could have done the other one, homework's like that, isn't it? Well, you can do this second iteration, do the class a second time and do a completely different version of the class. There are 15 different ways you can take phonarnation.org. So there's plenty to get your teeth into there. After 2 iterations, that's 10 weeks, we're going to look at the work and we're going to select 3 individuals who exhibit conspicuous Phonar Nation, conspicuous spirit of Phonar Nation. The actual actual details are on the site. We're going to pick those people out, and we have some awesome prizes for them. We have the sorts of prizes that I would love, being a professional photographer. I would absolutely love, let's say for instance, to get some sort of portfolio review stroke conversation with the photo editor of National Geographic. Yes, Washington Post, BBC, New York Times. So go to the Phonar Nation front page contest and you'll see the details on there, how to enter and what you can win. And there's also two other things I want to point out because you can read and find this stuff yourself. Book in a Box. This is so awesome. It's off the scale. So it started this week. It started on Friday. It was the Book in a Box started at the Center of Photography. It launched at the International Center of Photography in New York. 10 books, 10 boxes, and from there, having been reviewed by the students in the room, everyone has a look at them. Each box is put into its own, each book is put into its own box with a handmade journal. Notes are put in the journal to what people think about these books. And then from there, they're winging their way to libraries and community centers all across America. And they're really stitching that network up. So we're having faces and names in the journal that are referring to those people we see online. And we're passing these books around like messages in a bottle. So go to the phonar.org site and check in on the Book in a Box page. Find out if there's a library near you that's going to be running a Book in a Box session, and you can come along and join in. If you'd like one near you, because there's not, then we'll put details on the site so that you can sign up, and we'll get new iterations as fast as we can. So the last thing to show you or to talk about on this on the site, and in so many ways this is the most important thing, because it's the blog, it's the daily doodles, it's the back page. It's the back page where I'm going to be writing and I'm going to be sounding out and calling people in and looking at your work, showing your work to the rest of the nation. So if you want to get on the back page, then you have to hashtag your work and share it in the social stream. So we're coming to the end of my monologue. I'm sorry that it is like this. Last few questions. How much is it? It's free. How awesome is that? Will I get feedback? How many people are doing it? Where are they? How many people are doing it? Well, as part of the Cities of Learning initiative, there are at least 268,000 people being invited to do Phonar Nation. Big class, a lot of people. There are, where are they? They are all across America. You can see, again, you can go to the phonarnation.org site and you can see exactly where those cities are. Will I get feedback? You know what? I hope so. It's a bit like asking, will I get a Valentine's card this year, or will I get a Christmas card, isn't it, in a way? Are you going to send any cards out? Are you going to give feedback? Because that's how the network works. Right, you have to get in there and you have to feed back to other people, and they're going to feed back to you, and that's how we build those relationships up, those support networks. Especially if you don't have a teacher that's going to take your class, you have to get out there, reach out to me, reach out to the mentors by all means, and we're going to get around as many people as we can. But you have to do your share of the work. You have to go out there and comment on other people's work, encourage them, tell them your favorite pictures, give them positive feedback, so that they're encouraged to go try again and do even better stuff. And I think that's all I've got to say about that. I'm going to double check now to make sure that I haven't missed anybody's questions. So you can talk amongst yourselves for a minute there while I do that. I see I'm old. I can't deal with this sort of quantum environment where things are going off all over the place at once. You know what? I think we're good. If you have any more questions, you can stick them into Chatzy. Let's move this conversation into Chatzy now. Again, if you go onto the site, then you can find the links to that. So it's phonarnation.org. I'm going to be replying via Chatzy. It may be me. It may be Kate Green as well. It may be Claudio Sullivan. Oh, question coming in hard. As I'm closing the shop, obviously all the questions come in. How do I reach out to people? Well, you know, the best places to reach out to people are going to be, I'm on Twitter a lot, Jonathan_Worth. I'm hanging out there all the time. Phonar Nation, I've got a search on Phonar Nation, so if you use that hashtag, I'm going to see your question. I'm going to be led to your work straight away. But I understand that not everybody wants to use Twitter, and that's fine. But we'll be looking out for you on Instagram. We'll be looking out for you on Flickr as well. The last thing to try is jonathan@phonar.org. after you've been to the FAQ, after you've asked the entire nation on Twitter, and you've looked on Instagram, then you can email me and I'll get back to you. All right, it's been awesome, and we'll see you in chat. Looking forward to getting this show on the road.